Congrats to all the hodlers out there celebrating Bitcoin breaking 100K. Can somebody check on Peter Schiff? The next Bitcoin price target has been set, not by YouTubers like me, but by people like the U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman.
People use Bitcoin as a speculative asset. It's just like gold, only it's virtual, it's digital. It's not a competitor for the dollar, it's really a competitor for gold.
Bitcoin is coming for gold, which means the next price target for Bitcoin past 100K is 850,000 per coin. The nation-state race is underway. A Shanghai judge ruled that Bitcoin is now legal in China. The Moroccan government lifted its crypto ban in November. Canadian mayors in Vancouver want to add a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Swiss lawmakers are trying to beat the United States and BRICS countries to the punch. And Nayib Bukele is posting El Salvador's Bitcoin bags publicly, as their treasury is now at $600 million. Even Vladimir Putin is recognizing that Bitcoin can't be banned.
Биткоин кто может запретить? Никто.
Let me translate Nick 2 for all y'all. Nobody is stopping Bitcoin. And so the obvious question is, what is the United States going to do? Everyone is talking about how Bitcoin adoption is going to happen at the sovereign level, but no one is talking about how it's going to happen at the state level.
And I believe that the states are going to be the first mover here. That's good for the federal government because ultimately that will provide some political momentum for them to be able to get this across the finish line in Washington, D.C.
The road to Bitcoin reaching 850K will run through the State House before it runs through the White House. We'll dive into exactly how that's going to happen. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. The United States is going to use Bitcoin to bolster its strategic reserves, weaken the dollar, as well as strengthen the U.S. dollar system. Listen to what Luke Roman has to say.
Bitcoin is the new oil, and the reason the Trump administration is so interested in this is I think they see exactly what Treasury and Paul Ryan are talking about, and that they're going to use Bitcoin like they did to oil back in 73, 74, which is, yes, the U.S. absolutely has a debt problem. Even Treasury's admitting it now. Even the Fed's admitting it now. Everyone knows it, and it's very acute, and we need balance sheet desperately. We need balance sheet anywhere that is not Fed balance sheet. And so we need a way to weaken the dollar while strengthening the dollar system. And you look at this and you go, gosh, this checks all the boxes. If we inflate the heck out of Bitcoin, you're going to increase stable coins. You're going to increase stablecoin demand for T-bills. What that will do, because Bitcoin is a global asset, is it will draw in dollars from around the world.
This idea about Bitcoin becoming a strategic reserve shouldn't be new to anyone, because the United States and other sovereign nations have all kinds of reserves. Listen to this conversation, this exclusive conversation that Dennis Porter, CEO and co-founder of the Satoshi Action Fund, and I had about the very topic of where and how Bitcoin will be adopted in the United States.
Well, I mean, I don't think we can really measure or quantify even just how significant it would be for the United States to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve and to be able to acquire it before its geopolitical rivals. But before we talk about the specifics on, I think, what those implications could be, I think it's really important for people to understand the different types of reserves that already exist in the United States today. So we have reserves for all different types of industries, all different types of assets. The most popular, of course, being our gold reserve, but we also have an oil reserve, a petroleum reserve. We have a rare mineral reserve. We have a medical supply reserve. We have a uranium reserve. We have a number of different types of reserves, including ammunition, even food. We have these reserves because we want to make sure that in those fringe events, those really extreme cases, things where real bad things happen, and we don't like when bad things happen, but unfortunately, the way the world is, every 50 to 100 years, these really extreme cases happen, and it's just very impossible for the average American to prepare for these fringe events that do happen, and unfortunately do happen every 50 to 100 years. One quick example of what it looks like when you don't have a reserve in place is the medical supply reserves. Everybody saw what happened when we didn't have enough medical supplies in this country during the pandemic. We had doctors and nurses wearing garbage bags. They were wearing garbage bags while they were treating patients. It's insane. We need to make sure that we're having these reserves in place as a shock absorber for these very, very fringe type events.
Well, we've heard that we've even have a strategic cheese reserve. There's countries that have cheese in cold storage for a rainy day.
That's right. I mean, listen, if we've got a cheese reserve, I'm pretty sure we can have a Bitcoin reserve.
Dennis and I got into some specifics about how Senator Lummis's Bitcoin Act will actually be implemented.
That policy is going to do two really big things. One is it is going to take the 200,000 plus Bitcoin that currently sit at the U.S. Marshals and is going to convert that right into the U.S. Strategic Reserve. So at no cost to the taxpayer whatsoever, we can automatically build a very large portion of our Strategic Reserve. And then from there, it's about buying Bitcoin over a period of time. In some ways, it will be used as a tool to revalue the gold that currently sits within the U.S. government's hands. So there's a funny accounting trick, but ultimately the gold is currently underpriced at within the U.S. government's hands, within our reserves, and they would just revalue it and use that new accounting tool to be able to buy more Bitcoin. Senator Lummis has also called for the sale of gold in order to buy Bitcoin. I think that would be a little bit harder to get across the finish line, but certainly it's an ambitious goal. Bitcoin is the future. Bitcoin is digital gold. Gold is a relic of the past, and we want to have a future reserve that is going to protect Americans far into the future. I think Bitcoin is that solution.
Speaking of protecting your Bitcoin, there's right and there's wrong ways to protect your Bitcoin. That's exactly why the Bitcoin Way exists. Members of their team will walk you through 100% self-custody, step by step, so you can remove all counterparty risk, stop sharing keys with third parties, and ensure you protect your generational wealth the right way. With Bitcoin breaking 100K, the road to Bitcoin being adopted by governments and states is now so much easier than it was before. So we just crossed a strategic milestone in the history of Bitcoin, which is the $100,000 price target, which was crossed on December 4th. How much of a psychological barrier does that actually cross for senators and politicians thinking about investing in this asset called Bitcoin? Is it now seen as a legitimate thing since we've crossed 100,000 that it wasn't at 95,000 or 69,000 or previous all-time highs?
It's absolutely an important psychological barrier. The moment we crossed it, within seconds of crossing that barrier, I had lawmakers across this country texting me, DMing me, saying they couldn't believe how quickly this had happened. Some lawmakers, which are new to Bitcoin even, were sharing these messages with me. So it certainly instills a level of confidence in those lawmakers that are looking to pass legislation. But people should keep in mind that what's happening at the state level right now is very important, because we have lawmakers who are Bitcoiners for the first time trying to introduce pro-Bitcoin legislation. I had a state senator, he won his race, and he said to me, the very first thing I want to do when I get into office is pass a strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation into law. Things like going to 100K dramatically bolster his ability to do that.
States, just like our national government, are trying to find ways to fund their unfunded liabilities, like rotting education systems, teachers' pension funds, and infrastructure that hasn't been replaced in 50 to 100 years in most major cities. Bitcoin represents hope and opportunity. And by us doing our part to connect with our senators and our state representatives in our local jurisdictions, we can play a small part in making our cities better places to live. How can people get involved or learn more about the Satoshi Action Fund?
Yeah, they can go to satoshiaction.io to learn more about our work. We have a lot of different resources up there as well, including one-pagers to educate lawmakers and regulators on the benefits of Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. We have a whole guide for it as well. We have a lot of our wins up there. We're going to keep producing wins. You know, we are the only organization in the entire world that's been able to pass legislation in multiple jurisdictions for Bitcoin. And we're proud to say that we have had letters from every single person in this entire community. So many different people in this community have sent letters to their lawmakers. In fact, every single lawmaker in this country, all 7,900 of them, every state lawmaker, every federal lawmaker has gotten a letter from our advocates because of our work. So if you want to be able to see us do more of this good work for Bitcoin, you want to see us secure more wins, you can go to satoshiaction.io. You can sign up for our newsletter to keep up to date, but also support the work that we're doing financially as well.
Before I let you go, I wanted to let you know about the Bitcoin event of the year happening in Dallas, Texas from April 3rd through April 6th at the BitBlockBoom conference. It's been running 8 years strong, and it gets better every year. On April 3rd through April 6th, you can learn from some of the greatest thinkers in Bitcoin, like Guy Swan, Parker Lewis, Gary Leland, Bob Burnett, and others like me. You can also get hands-on training in Bitcoin beginner workshops and get access to exclusive events and parties like the Saturday Casino Night. Your ticket is all-inclusive, and you can get $100 off your ticket by going to bitblockboom.com and using the promo code BBB25. That's promo code BBB25. I can't wait to see you guys there. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. And if you've been enjoying this content, please do like and subscribe to this channel. Or just share this video with someone that you know. Now that Bitcoin's broken 100K, you have a perfect excuse. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.